before you met Mr. Patterson, did you know about the Superstars of Wrestling thing where it was being used by somebody and the person that owned the trademark was Mr. Patterson?
Not entirely, but I do like to read the wrestling journals and everything, so I did hear, ramblings about how the WWE sometimes use things um, abusively for the most part, without anyone's consent, or if someone actually did try to, remedy the situation, they would pretty much like run the person to the ground until they could no longer compete with them. Because the WWE is this huge corporation, they make so much money, and they basically have like the best legal team, so it's hard to kind of fight them if you're saying you're doing this like towards me and it's wrong. They could pretty much just sweep you under the rug if they wanted to.
Yeah, Mr. Patterson had a very valid point of, like I said, when I met him, I had a wrestling federation. He said in a professional, gentleman way, I'm in violation of using Superstars. We met, we talked, but, and I'm going to say this over and over again, I have nobody else. Well, CM Punk probably did, but that was, recently.
Yeah.
But throughout the history, who hasn't, I'm going to say defeated, Vince McMahon and WWE, other than Alfred Patterson. So with that in mind, let's talk about contracts. How are contracts developed and used for professional wrestling?
Well, I actually read an article recently that's saying that a wrestling contract hasn't really changed too much over the past 30 to 35 years. Most people that are wrestlers, they're signed as independent contractors. So even though they're signed to a contract, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're entirely employed by that company. It's almost like they're a traveling circus for the most part.
But aren't the big dogs, the ones who sell the most items, signed to like maybe a 3 or 5 year deal?
Yeah, and they also have incentives. They get this much money back for how much items they sell, or their travel is paid for. But that's only 5-6 people maybe.
The top.
Yeah, like the top
players.
guys,
Okay.
or just like the longest tenured people for the most part. Or I also know that guys like the Undertaker, Big Show, because of their height, for example, they have to be comped certain seats if they have to fly first class basically.
Really?
Because of their size, or they get a tour bus when they're traveling because most compact cars won't fit them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Speaking of that too, because I don't know if you saw it on YouTube, we have the address of the WWA Superstars Wrestling towards the end of the show. Mr. Patterson, when he wrestled Macho Man, like I said before, like a UFC match. Patterson was a rough guy. People, you got to see that on YouTube. I think I'm kidding. It's crazy. Trademarks. I know WWE Superstars got their own trademark. Like I said, Mr. Patterson had his trademark at the time. He won the big battle cases. So, what are trademarks?
Well, first of all, Albert Patterson, one of the first guys in professional wrestling to actually trademark and copyright, his material, especially in that era. And
That's smart, yeah.
Yeah,
he was ahead of his time when he was doing it.
Yeah, because a lot of people, they didn't catch on until much later. To the point where now a lot of wrestlers, they don't even have their own name trademark. The company has a trademark.
Wow.
Yeah, so they lose money. They can't even go to another corporation and use their own name unless it's like their actual government name.
Well, I know China did that too. She had problems with that, yeah.
Yeah.
So Patterson was ahead of the game way back when,
Yeah. So basically, a trademark is just you're signing this agreement saying that you're using this type of product for this type of service or good. So someone, for example, they can have WWA Superstars of Wrestling, but for him, he has it for professional entertainment, sports entertainment, wrestling. But someone can use it as like a service for like a drink, for example. You can have a drink called WWA Superstars of Wrestling, and they wouldn't violate his trademark because of the fact that they're using it for a different avenue.
Oh, I got you. 'Cause even though they're going to make profit off of it, as long as they don't use it for entertainment.
Right, entertainment purposes, or anything else that he has under that umbrella, for example. So,
Got you. I understand it now. Okay.
yeah, so if he has a trademark WWA Superstars of Wrestling, then there's all these other subsections that you have underneath it for the type of licensing and goods that you're going to use with it.
So if some guy comes on like I did, um, I had a wrestling federation, if I have one, I start using superstars. Then Mr. Patterson has the right to say, hey, look, you can't do that.
Right.
Okay, got it.
Or also, he can allow you to use it. So basically he'll just get some type of, remedy from it for you using it. So if you came to him saying, hey, I would like to use this, he can grant you permission to use it.
Okay, I understand it. Yeah, okay. As far as being a legal assistant, what's in the future as far as your position, work with Mr. Patterson? So I know he said he wants to, get out there, give the young guys, independent guys, a chance. When you meet these guys, how do you go about sitting down to them and actually talking about a contract? Excuse me.
Well, what we've been trying to do is just kind of revamp the entire product, basically. And also, wrestling as a whole has kind of had a resurgence. A lot of people, when they think wrestling, they think just the WWE. But there are other companies out there. New Japan Pro Wrestling is pretty much on par with the WWE as far as revenue, as far as like talent. And that's why you've been seeing a lot of those guys coming over to the WWE. A lot of people still think it's the big stage, but what we would like to offer them is an opportunity to not just sit on the bench, basically. Why get paid to just sit there when you can actually get paid this amount now, but as like your star rises, your stock goes up, we can offer you more money, people will become more interested in you, merchandise can come from it, and that's what we're trying to offer these guys, especially the young ones.
So would you sign like a 6-month contract with them, a 1-year contract?
I think it varies, and also just kind of what they have going on, because some people, some wrestlers, they have families. Maybe they don't want to be on the road this often. They want this much time with their family. They want this much time on the road. So we're just going to try to figure out how much we can pay you for like your time.
That's only fair, yeah, because I know a lot of professional wrestlers are on the road a lot, and they burn themselves out. I'm sure Mr. Patterson was on the road doing his thing, because he said he started at the age of 17 back then, so that's fair enough. Okay, Mr. Hatchard, it's great to have you. We're going to have you come back. We're going to do a part 2 of this show, so I want you to come back, probably have you and Mr. Patterson both on the show at the same time, get more insight of the legal parts of it, and how far you guys are going to go. Well, I know you're going to go far, but the WWA Superstars of Wrestling. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
We'll be back. We are back. Sports or Us Talk. I'm here with Mr. Albert Patterson, the legendary Albert Patterson, WWA Superstars of Wrestling, ladies and gentlemen. This guy, if you don't know it now, you will know it by the end of the show, what he's all about. Superstars of Wrestling never went away, but it is back, and it's going to be better than ever. Mr. Patterson, we are back. We just got finished talking to Daryl Hatchett. Thank you, Daryl. We're going to have you on part 2 of this show. This show is going to be shown in June of this year. Daryl Hatchett talked about copyrights. Okay, could you explain exactly what copyrights are as far as, for you, professional wrestling, and explain your copyrights and what happened when some other federation used your name and how you became victorious of suing that company. A lot of people don't know that.
Okay.
Because they use your Superstars of Wrestling
Okay.
name.
Well, let me start off simply by saying a copyright is a program when you copyright the contents of a television program.
Okay.
Okay. A trademark is when you register your trademark and the services within your trademark.
Okay, and when you did your when did you do your trademark, Mr. Pat?
I did my trademark in 1980. Well, I filed it in 1979 in the state of Wisconsin. It was registered March of 1980. I registered federally for Superstars of Wrestling in 1993. The federal registration came in 1994.
So you were ahead of the game before all the big major leagues. You had all your eggs in one basket.
Well, the reason I had all of my eggs in one basket, see, when I went to the television stations, they asked me for proof of ownership
Wow.
because I was black. But they didn't ask Vern Gagne or anyone else.
Just happened to be you.
Right. So
Wow.
we had to, when we started on the cable networks in 1979, putting programs on and putting tapes on, that was the first thing they asked about, copyrights and trademarks. Do you have this information? So we immediately had to go into the state of Wisconsin and register Superstar Wrestling.
Okay.
And then when we wanted to go further in 1992, we wanted to put it on different networks. We had to get federal. You had to have a federal registration because you had to go out of one state. Okay, state of Wisconsin, you had the state of Wisconsin registration. But when you wanted to go into Chicago and all these areas, it's federal. So you had to have a federal registration.
Wow. See, you don't know this. Just I'm sitting back watching. You at the time on Channel 24, and the legal perspective, you just don't know until you talk to a guy like you about this. I'm sitting back watching your show, and like, oh, this is great. But then, like you said, there's a lot of paperwork and legalities and federal papers and things to sign and stuff. That's amazing.
Well,
Okay.
when you want to go into a specific situation, like dealing with television people, first of all, they want to know, do you own the television program and the contents of the program and the title of the program, which the title of my program was Superstars of Wrestling and Superstar Wrestling.
Okay.
So they want to know these things. Are you infringing upon anyone else? That was the questions that was asked of me. But as business went on, they didn't, if you was of a different color, they wouldn't ask you these things. They only was looking at me because I was a black person and I was going into these facilities would question the same thing that someone like Vern Gagne was requesting in the state of Wisconsin. He was my competition in the state of Wisconsin, AWA, All-Star Wrestling. So I had to come up with my own program. I couldn't use All-Star Wrestling and all of that. So I had to come up with something with my talent and my people's, something that would set the program aside and make it different. So I came up, and a friend of mine, we came up with Superstars of Wrestling.
See, at that point, and people can argue with me because your show was out there. Somebody in the American Ladies Federation were watching you. They had been watching you because this show was great.
Again, this someone might have been watching, but what created the vacuum there was when Randy went over and started working for the World Wrestling Federation.
Oh, I got it. Yeah.
And him and Bob Horton, well, Bob went in 1982, back over there, and they was headlining the Superstars of Wrestling cards.
Got it. Okay.
So when you go back into this other organization, which this other organization at the time was buying up a lot of companies, but they didn't have no major names, nothing to work with. They just had all this defunct companies that they was picking up, like Georgia Wrestling and all of these companies. But when you go to a television station want to know what type of program, how's it going to set aside. So it was kind of simple by me being in the state of Wisconsin, and who is going to look at a person that's been out here to walk in the door and say, well, I own Superstars of Wrestling.
That was a shocker, then, huh?
Wow. So when all of this stuff started happening in 85, 86, when the major became in, I remember the time that this company went in and started selling tapes in 1984 and sold $10 million worth of Superstars of Wrestling tapes.
Wow.
And we didn't get into this information, okay, just say for instance, we sued this company in 1990.
Okay.
Okay. The information that was portrayed over to me, a lot of times, when you say good attorneys, I'm the worst person in the world hiring attorneys. I pay a lot of money, but getting good attorneys, I wish I could possess attorneys like the WWE have,
Yeah.
because here's you go into a litigation, and throughout this litigation, this company running this television show ever since 1984, Superstars of Wrestling, live on every television network around. And you get into court and you say, well, can you furnish us the information, everything of use now, everything that you use Superstars of Wrestling into? Can you believe that this company came up, ain't said a word about Superstars of Wrestling television program?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I
now,
got you. Yeah.
And then at the time, the corporation was in bankruptcy. You had a bankruptcy trustee. Now, you gave a settlement agreement to the bank trustee. At the time, I wasn't even involved. But to take the settlement, I had to sign off on the settlement because simply I own the majority rights into the companies at the time. So now you didn't make no agreement about Superstars of Wrestling television program. No settlement, no nothing about that. You're gonna come in and say, well, we'll give you this certain amount to settle this case. Okay, the certain amount that you're given is to pay the lawyers, the bankruptcy, and whatever else is left, that's what I would have. So out of this whole $209,000, I ended up maybe the trademarks. Originally, what I got out of the whole deal, after everything was paid, was the trademarks.
That's value in itself. I mean, even like Prince had that same type of problem, but here you're ahead of the game where you got the trademarks now.
Yeah,
You're
I
untouchable.
have the trademarks, but that's all I have is the trademarks. I do have an opportunity now to see. Honest thing about owning trademarks and having trademarks, you have to spend a set amount of money to protect these trademarks.
True. That's true.
You know what I'm saying? So, in every litigation that somebody infringe upon the mark, that means you got to go out here and sue this person. I got more than $175,000 tied up in legal fees throughout all the litigations that I had to go into to protect the trademark.
Wow. It's like you've been your own attorney throughout the years, in
Well,
a successful way.
Here's the trouble is that I hire top people in the field. Now, when I hire these people and read about their history and law and all of this, right? Just to name a few. And I had one guy that I was trying to get a trademark canceled. And this guy was a brilliant attorney, right? But when it came to representing me and answering a simple order, do you know this guy with all the years of knowledge that he had in law, when it became to my motion, he failed the motion. And the patent office at the United States Patent and Trademark Office wrote a letter, declaration of a letter, saying that the attorney, when he did take over, did not even file the proper paperwork.
Oh, geez.
But he charged me $1,500. But he didn't do the proper paperwork. Now, I had another lawyer went into a case, and he was a great lawyer. Now, he was the lawyer in the first case.
Okay.
I mean, win the case. We had another previous case with the WWA, and do you know that this guy forgot, and he was answering a sum of judgment, and you have to put so many words into a sum of judgment.
Okay.
He did the sum of judgment with less words, and the judge said that it was incomplete.
Like I said, Mr. Pratt, it seems like you've been your own attorney throughout the years, and I can tell you, you know a good attorney from a bad attorney. But hey, we're running out of time. Sports are us. We're here with Mr. Albert Patterson. We're going to do a part 2 to this, Mr. Patterson. This can go on.
Well,
It's got to go on. I'm finding out a lot about you.
I'm looking forward to doing the part 2. And again, I'm looking forward to working with young athletes and other independent little companies around the United States, and that's what we want to do. We want to look at it as a talent pool of talent, because you have a great deal of talent out here today. So with my Facebook friends, wrestling friends, and all of this, we're going to set up a time where we're going to have a big meeting in Wisconsin, and we're going to have representatives from all of these organizations that come in. We're going to take a few days where we can just sit down and really put a organization that will sustain what's going on today.
Okay. Tell you what, we're going to do a part 2. I want to be part of that big summit. We'll be back. You're watching Sports Are Us here with Mr. Patterson. We're on Thursdays at 8 o'clock, Fridays at 10 o'clock, Channel 96, Matter Media. Watch this show, review it. Get ready for part 2, WWA Superstars of Wrestling. We'll see you next time.